AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my kids? This has been bothering me for months now, and I feel like I'm stuck in a terrible spot. I really need an outside perspective to know if I'm being unreasonable or if my feelings are justified. I, 38F, have two kids, ages 7 and 9. My sister, 34F, is getting married next month. She's always been a little difficult to deal with, but I tried to keep things civil for the sake of family. Over the years, she has made things uncomfortable for me and my kids, but it's escalated recently to a point I'm not willing to tolerate anymore. A bit of background, my sister and I didn't grow up with a lot of money. Our parents worked hard, but weren't able to give us much beyond the basics. I always tried to protect my kids from the things I felt made my childhood hard. I work a decent job, and while I'm not rich, I'm comfortable enough to provide for my family. My sister has always been a bit jealous of that, I think, and sometimes it shows. The problem started a few months ago when my sister announced her engagement and started planning her wedding. She made it very clear early on that this would be a very adult event and that kids would not be welcome, which is fine in itself. But what hurt was how she communicated it to me and, more importantly, to my kids. I have always included my kids in family events because they're a big part of my life. I expected the same at this wedding, even if they weren't invited to the reception. But when the invitations went out, my sister's message to me was cold and very specific. No kids, and please don't bring them. This is a formal adult gathering. That's not what hurt the most, though. A few weeks ago, my kids and I were invited to her bridal shower, which was supposed to be a family-friendly event. I took my kids because I thought it would be a nice chance for them to bond with cousins and family. When we arrived, my sister openly frowned when she saw the kids. Throughout the event, she made several remarks that made me and my kids uncomfortable, calling my 7-year-old too loud, telling my 9-year-old to sit still like a proper child, and generally ignoring them except when making passive-aggressive comments. My kids felt unwelcome, and I felt humiliated. I tried to brush it off, telling myself maybe she was stressed with the wedding planning, but things only got worse. The breaking point came last weekend at a family barbecue. My sister brought her fiancé and some friends, and everyone was mingling happily. My kids want to play with their cousins, but when they tried, my sister stepped in and told them to stop bothering the grown-ups. She then made a loud comment about how my kids were ruining the vibe, and why can't parents keep their kids in check these days? I confronted her quietly, telling her that her comments were hurtful, especially in front of my kids. She snapped back that it's her day, and she won't have kids running around, making it chaotic. I tried to explain that my kids weren't being disruptive, just kids being kids, but she refused to listen and told me I should teach them better. I left early with my kids that day, feeling like my sister was no longer the family member I once knew. I told my husband what happened, and he agreed it wasn't acceptable. We talked about the upcoming wedding and how I felt about attending it after all of this. I decided to talk to my sister about how I felt. I sent her a message explaining that her treatment of my kids was hurtful and that I was feeling really unwelcome and upset. I said I wanted to support her on her wedding day, but that I needed some reassurance that my kids and I wouldn't be disrespected or ignored. Her response was a complete shock. She told me I was being dramatic and that she didn't want kids at her wedding or any event leading up to it. She said she's trying to build an adult environment, and that if I couldn't accept that, I was free not to come. She also accused me of making everything about my kids and not respecting her wishes. After reading that, I decided I wouldn't go to her wedding. I told her that while I'm happy for her, I won't be attending because I don't feel respected or valued as a mother or sister. Now, the family is divided. Some say I'm justified for standing up for my kids and myself. Others say I'm overreacting and that it's her special day, so I should just accept her rules. My parents are disappointed I'm not going, saying it's just one day and that family should come together. My husband supports me, but is worried about the long-term fallout. I feel guilty for not going, but honestly, I feel like my sister made her choice when she decided to treat my kids that way. I want to know if I'm the asshole for refusing to attend because of this. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding due to how she treated my kids? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding after she sabotaged my engagement. I, 28F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emily, 24F. We grew up in a pretty tight-knit family, and although we've had our usual sibling spats, I never imagined there would be a moment where I would have to make a choice that would cause a permanent rift between us. But here we are. Last year, I got engaged to my boyfriend, Matt, 30M, after dating for about 4 years. Matt is the most wonderful, supportive, and kind person I've ever met, and honestly, I felt like I hit the jackpot. From the start, I told Emily about Matt and how serious we were. She seemed happy for me, even excited, at least on the surface. The trouble started a few months before the engagement. Matt and I were saving for a ring and planning a surprise trip where he proposed. Emily was around during some of those moments, and that's when I started noticing subtle changes in her behavior toward Matt. She began making passive-aggressive comments, undermining him in front of our family, and just generally making things awkward. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe it was just sibling rivalry or jealousy, but I tried to be patient and keep the peace. When Matt finally proposed on a quiet weekend getaway, it was everything I had hoped for. I called Emily immediately to tell her the news, expecting excitement and congratulations. Instead, she gave me a lukewarm, "Oh, that's nice," and changed the subject quickly. Over the next few weeks, Emily's behavior escalated. She started telling our family stories that painted Matt in a bad light, things that were either exaggerated or completely untrue. She said Matt was controlling, manipulative, and only interested in me for money, which was absurd. I pay for most things in our relationship. I tried to confront her calmly, but she brushed me off, saying she was only looking out for me. Then things took a much darker turn. I found out from a mutual friend that Emily had been reaching out to Matt's ex-girlfriends, digging up dirt and trying to pit them against Matt to expose him. She even showed up uninvited at Matt's workplace, pretending to be a concerned family member. This was all while I was trying to organize the wedding and keep my stress levels manageable. Matt was hurt and confused, and honestly, so was I. I asked Emily directly if she was trying to sabotage our relationship, and she admitted she didn't want me to marry Matt because she didn't think he was good enough for me. She said she was protecting me from making a mistake. At this point, I felt completely betrayed. I told her that her behavior was unacceptable and that if she wanted to be part of my life, she needed to stop the interference and respect my choices. She refused, doubling down on her accusations and continuing her campaign against Matt. The final straw came when I found out Emily tried to intercept one of Matt's wedding gifts and hide it so I wouldn't see it. Our parents discovered this and confronted her, but she just shrugged and said she wanted me to wake up before it was too late. Now, I'm planning the wedding, and I have decided not to invite Emily. My fiancé supports the decision, and so do most of my close friends and family, who have witnessed her behavior firsthand. Of course, this has caused an uproar in the family. My parents are torn because they don't want to lose either daughter, but they also see how toxic Emily has been. Emily has cut off all contact with me and is telling everyone I'm being cruel and unforgiving. I'm torn because part of me wants to have my sister there on my special day, but another part feels that inviting her would open the door for more drama and hurt. So, AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding after she actively tried to sabotage my engagement and relationship. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house after what happened at my wedding. So, this is a long story, and I'm hoping to get some outside perspective because the situation has gotten pretty messy and my family is divided. I'll try to keep it as clear as possible. A little background. I, 32F, got married about 6 months ago. My sister, Emma, 28F, has been dating her fiancé, Jake, 30M, for about 2 years. Jake has always been a bit of a wild card, charming and funny, but also a bit irresponsible and sometimes borderline disrespectful. Emma, however, adores him and is convinced he's the one. Before I dive into the wedding drama, I want to say that I've always been the responsible older sister type, I've helped Emma out financially and emotionally many times. I work a decent job and own my house where I live alone. Emma and Jake have been living with her parents, who are fairly strict and don't really like Jake much. Fast forward to my wedding day. It was a small ceremony with close friends and family. I had asked Emma to be a bridesmaid, and she was super excited. Jake was also invited, obviously, and I wanted him there because, despite some misgivings from others, I believe in giving people a chance. On the day of the wedding, everything was going great until the reception. Jake had been drinking, and he started making inappropriate jokes and comments. Nothing too wild at first, but it made me and my new husband uncomfortable. I tried to ignore it, hoping he'd settle down. Then, things escalated. Jake somehow managed to get into an argument with one of my close friends over something trivial. It ended with him yelling and storming out of the venue. Emma was devastated, but said she'd handle it. Later that night, Emma called me, crying, saying Jake had been kicked out of her parents' house because of his behavior. She wanted to stay at my place for a couple of nights until she figured things out. I told her she could stay, no problem. What happened next is where things started to spiral. Emma and Jake showed up at my house, and from the get-go, Jake was acting entitled. He was going through my fridge, complaining about what I had and what I didn't have. He criticized the way I decorated and even said my house was too stuffy for him. I tried to keep the peace, but Jake's behavior got worse. He invited some friends over without asking, left messes everywhere, and was generally disrespectful. I confronted him about it, and he told me I was being too uptight and that I should loosen up. Emma, instead of backing me up, told me I was being unreasonable and that Jake was just stressed because of everything going on. I told her she could stay, but Jake was not welcome anymore unless he changed his attitude. The situation got even more complicated when Jake started to insinuate that I was jealous of him and trying to control Emma. He accused me of trying to break them up and said that if I had any sense, I'd support their relationship. Emma was torn. She wanted to believe her fiancé, but also knew he had some issues. She begged me to give him another chance, but I stood firm. A couple of weeks later, Emma and Jake broke up after a particularly nasty fight. Emma moved out of her parents' house and moved in with me temporarily, saying she wanted to get away from the drama and figure out her life. I thought things would settle down, but Emma started to rely on me for everything, financially, emotionally, and practically. She was unemployed, and I was covering most of the expenses. I didn't mind helping her, but I also felt drained. Then, out of nowhere, Jake showed up at my house asking to talk to Emma. I refused to let him in, telling him he was not welcome. He got angry, called me names, and threatened to cause trouble. I called the police, and he left. The whole family found out about this, and now they're divided. Some say I was too harsh on Jake, and that I should have tried harder to make peace. Others support me for standing up for my home and boundaries. Emma is upset with me because she feels like I pushed her and Jake apart, but I honestly don't think I'm the villain here. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house and for standing my ground against his behavior? Thanks in advance for your thoughts. AITA for refusing to babysit my niece on short notice and causing a family blowup? So, this has been brewing for a while, and I'm honestly torn about whether I'm the asshole here or not. I'm 28, female, and I have a niece, Lily, who just turned 5. My sister, Rachel, is 31, married, and has 2 kids, Lily and a newborn. I'll get to why the situation is so intense, but let me start by giving some context about my relationship with my sister and her family. Growing up, Rachel and I were close, but definitely had our ups and downs. Since we became adults, we've drifted somewhat, mostly because she moved far away for her husband's job and started having kids. I live in the same city as our parents, but she's about a 3-hour drive away. I've always been more independent and career-focused, while Rachel has been more of the traditional family type. That said, I do love my niece and nephew and have spent a fair amount of time with them over the years. Now, Rachel is the kind of person who often expects favors, especially when it comes to childcare. I don't mind helping occasionally, but I'm not a full-time babysitter or a free daycare. Plus, my work schedule is pretty demanding. I work in marketing and often have to do late meetings or weekend stuff, so my availability is limited. I also have a social life and other responsibilities. I try to balance everything as best I can. The problem started a few months ago when Rachel gave birth to her second child, and suddenly her emergency childcare needs skyrocketed. She began texting me almost every week with last-minute requests to watch Lily or both kids, sometimes just a few hours before she needed me. I always tried to help when I could, but there were several times I had to say no. Each time I declined, she acted upset and guilt-tripped me, saying things like, "I'm really struggling," or "I have no one else to turn to." Our parents help sometimes, but they're elderly and can't do childcare regularly. The last straw was 2 weeks ago. It was a Friday morning, and I'd already made plans to meet some friends after work, plus I was scheduled for an important client presentation at 3 p.m. Around 10 a.m., Rachel texted me in a panic. Her babysitter canceled, her husband was stuck at work, and she needed me to watch both kids until at least 6 p.m. This was the day of the presentation I'd been preparing for over a month. I told her honestly that I couldn't because of my presentation. I also reminded her that this was the third time in 2 weeks she'd asked me last minute, and I couldn't keep rearranging my life every time she had a crisis. She blew up on me in response, accusing me of not caring about the family and saying I was being selfish. She said, "If you really loved Lily, you'd make time." I stood my ground and said no. Later that day, Rachel called my mom and told her I was being ungrateful and refusing to help family. My mom texted me asking if everything was okay, and I explained my side. She told me that Rachel felt abandoned, but she also understood I couldn't always be available. The next day, Rachel posted on social media about family letting her down, tagging me in a passive-aggressive post about so-called family who never show up when needed. I confronted her privately, telling her I didn't appreciate being dragged into a public argument and that I'm willing to help, but not on her schedule whenever she demands. She responded by saying I was cold and selfish and then blocked me on all platforms. Our parents are caught in the middle and are upset about the family drama. Since then, my other sister has tried to mediate, but Rachel refuses to speak to me. Meanwhile, I'm wondering if I was wrong to say no. Should I have dropped everything and helped out? Or was I justified in setting boundaries? It's really stressing me out because I don't want to lose my relationship with my niece, but I also can't be expected to babysit every time there's a crisis. So, AITA for refusing to babysit my niece and nephew on short notice, knowing it would impact my work and social plans? Or is Rachel being unreasonable in expecting me to be available whenever she needs? Happy to answer any questions or give more context if needed. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her controlling fiancé and ending up causing a family rift? So, this is a bit long, but I need some outside perspective because my family is absolutely torn apart right now, and I'm questioning if I'm actually the bad guy here. I, 29F, have a younger sister, Emma, 26F. We grew up really close, did everything together, and even after she moved out and got her own life, we stayed tight. Our parents live in a small town, and Emma and I moved to different cities for work, but we always made time for holidays and family events. About a year ago, Emma started dating this guy, Mark, 30M. At first, I liked him well enough. Polite, charming, seemed to genuinely care about her. But as months passed, I started noticing little things that made me uneasy. He was very controlling about who Emma could see and what she did. For example, whenever I invited Emma out for coffee or a casual catch-up, she'd say she'd love to, but would always have to check with Mark first or cancel last minute because he wasn't comfortable. That struck me as odd, but I thought maybe it was just how their relationship worked. Fast forward 6 months, and Mark proposed. Emma was ecstatic, and the family started helping plan the wedding. This is when the real issues started surfacing. Mark began taking over everything. The venue, the guest list, the decorations. He insisted on having complete control. My parents were a bit older and wanted a traditional, cozy ceremony, but Mark pushed for a big, extravagant event in a trendy city location, which meant everyone would have to travel and stay at expensive hotels. Emma reluctantly agreed, saying she wanted to make Mark happy. What really pushed me over the edge was how Mark treated my sister during the planning. He was dismissive of her opinions, talked over her in meetings with vendors, and even told her she wasn't handling the stress well when she tried to push back. Emma confided in me that she felt trapped but didn't know how to stand up to him without risking the wedding. Now, here's where things get worse from my perspective. Mark started telling Emma that my parents and I were not supportive because we questioned the extravagant plans or tried to suggest more affordable options. He painted us as the problem. Emma, who had always been level-headed, began cutting off communication with my parents and me. She stopped answering our calls and texts. We were excluded from the planning entirely. 2 months before the wedding, my parents and I tried to have a heart-to-heart with Emma. We told her we were worried about how Mark was treating her and that we wanted her to be happy, but we also missed having a relationship with her. She broke down and admitted she felt suffocated and confused, but was afraid to rock the boat. I offered to help her find support or even just be a safe space, but she said she had to figure things out on her own. Then came the invitation. Instead of sending it to me or my parents, Mark personally gave the invites to only a select group of friends and relatives he approved of. My parents and I received no invites, and when I asked Emma about it, she said, "Mark and I decided it's best if only close friends attend." I hope you understand. That was the last straw for me. I called Emma and asked why we weren't invited, and she said Mark didn't want family drama at the wedding. I told her that excluding us hurt deeply and that I wasn't going to attend a wedding where my sister felt controlled and cut off from her family. Emma then accused me of trying to sabotage her happiness and insisted that Mark was a good man who only wanted what was best for her. She told me if I didn't come to the wedding, she wouldn't speak to me again. I stood my ground and told her I couldn't support something that made her unhappy and made our family feel erased. So, I didn't attend the wedding. Since then, my parents and I have been cut off completely. Emma and Mark changed their phone numbers, blocked us on social media, and ignored all attempts to reach out. The rest of the family is divided, with some thinking I was right to stand up for Emma and others believing I was being selfish and should have swallowed my pride for the sake of family unity. I'm devastated because I love my sister, but I also feel like I had to protect her from a toxic situation. On the other hand, maybe I should have just gone to the wedding and tried to mend things afterward. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's controlling behavior and the way they excluded our family. AITA for telling my sister her wedding plan was selfish and refusing to be part of it. This is going to be long, so bear with me. I'm 32F, and my sister, Emily, is 29F. We have always been close, but the last few months have seriously tested our relationship. Emily got engaged about 6 months ago to her fiancé, Jason, and since then, she's been laser-focused on planning their wedding. The problem is, she's planning something incredibly extravagant, but only for a tiny guest list, literally just family and a handful of friends. At first, I was excited for her. She found someone she loves, and they seem happy. But as the wedding plans progressed, I started to notice some things that felt off. Emily and Jason live in a small town where almost everyone knows each other. I live in the city about 4 hours away. Emily's idea for the wedding was to have a destination wedding in a resort about 6 hours from the town, and she wanted to invite only 25 people in total. The catch? The guest list was almost exclusively immediate family and a few of Jason's friends, but almost none of Emily's old friends or any extended family from our side. Now, my parents and I, along with my younger brother, are part of that tiny guest list. I was surprised because Emily and I have a huge extended family, including cousins and childhood friends who were all left off the list. When I asked Emily about this, she said she wanted a small, intimate wedding and didn't want the drama that comes with inviting everyone. I understood wanting a small wedding, but the way she spoke about it rubbed me the wrong way. She said things like, "You know how our family is. Someone always tries to make it about themselves. I just want a stress-free day." That was odd because she never really had much conflict with anyone. As planning continued, Emily started to make it clear she expected all of us attending to pay for our own travel, lodging, and even some of the events. She said since the guest list was so small and she was paying for a luxury venue, it was unfair for her to cover everyone's costs. I was taken aback. I get that destination weddings often require guests to pay their way, but the tone she was taking was more like a demand than a request. Plus, she refused to help out or negotiate any kind of group discount for rooms or travel. At this point, my brother, my parents, and I started discussing the wedding among ourselves. We all felt a bit uneasy, but didn't want to rock the boat. My parents said they would go, but they were already worried about the expenses. A few weeks ago, I found out that Emily had cut out a few close family members from the guest list because they apparently didn't fit the vibe of the wedding. One cousin who had been Emily's best friend growing up wasn't invited. When I brought it up to Emily, she said bluntly that the cousin was too drama-prone, and she wanted to avoid any conflict on her big day. This hurt because that cousin was one of the kindest people I know, and she had always been supportive of Emily. I felt like Emily was being petty and excluding people who had been important in her life. So I did something I don't usually do. I told Emily honestly how I felt. I told her the wedding plan felt selfish and exclusionary, and that the way she was asking people to pay their own way without any assistance was unfair, especially since she was expecting everyone to make huge financial sacrifices. Emily immediately got defensive and said I was being judgmental and trying to ruin her day. She accused me of trying to turn everyone against her and said I was being selfish for not supporting her in the way she wanted. I told her I was happy for her, but I couldn't pretend everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. I told her I wasn't going to pretend to be excited about a wedding that felt designed to alienate people and put a financial burden on everyone else. Since then, the communication between us has been icy. She hasn't formally uninvited me, but she stopped inviting me to any wedding-related events, like the rehearsal dinner or bridal shower. My parents and brother are still planning to go, but they're upset with me for rocking the boat and say I should just support my sister no matter what. I've thought about backing down because I don't want to cause family drama, but I feel like standing my ground is important. I'm torn because I don't want to miss my sister's wedding, but I also don't want to support something I feel is hurtful to others and unfair to the guests. So, Reddit, AITA for telling my sister her wedding plans were selfish and refusing to be part of it. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house after he refused to follow my simple rules, causing a huge family fight. I, 33F, have always been the responsible one in my family. I live alone in a decent-sized townhouse that I've worked hard to afford. I'm pretty private and particular about my space, but I'm also generous when it comes to family. Over the years, I've often hosted family members who needed a place to stay temporarily. I have rules, nothing crazy, like no smoking inside, cleaning up after yourself, respecting quiet hours, and no overnight guests without permission. I expect basic decency and respect for my home. My younger sister, Amy, 28F, has had a rough few years. She struggled with various relationships, bounced between jobs, and moved between cities. 2 months ago, she started dating someone new, Jake, 30M. I met him once or twice and thought he was fine. A little rough around the edges, but seemed okay. A couple of weeks ago, Amy told me she and Jake were going through a rough patch and that Jake needed a place to stay temporarily because he was between apartments and had nowhere else to go. Amy begged me to let him stay for just a week or two. I was hesitant but agreed. I told her that the stay would be temporary, that Jake needed to follow my house rules, and if things didn't work out, I wouldn't hesitate to ask him to leave. Amy said she understood. Jake moved in last Saturday. At first, everything seemed fine, but very quickly, issues started to pile up. Rule 1. No smoking inside. Jake smoked inside multiple times. I have a strict no smoking inside policy because I have allergies and don't want the house smelling like smoke. When I confronted him, he brushed it off, saying it was just a cigarette and that he didn't think it was a big deal. I reminded Amy, who promised she would talk to him. Rule 2. Cleaning up. Jake left his mess everywhere. Dirty dishes in the sink, clothes all over the living room floor, food wrappers scattered around. Amy said she'd get him to clean up, but nothing changed. Rule 3. Quiet hours. I work early shifts and need to sleep. Jake would come in late at night, making noise and playing loud music, ignoring my request to keep it down. The last straw was when Jake brought his dog over without telling me. I have a severe dog allergy and explicitly told Amy no pets in the house. When I asked him to take the dog out, he became defensive and refused. At this point, I sat Amy down and told her Jake had to leave. Amy was upset and accused me of being unreasonable. She said Jake was going through a hard time and that I was not being family. I tried to explain that this wasn't personal, but about respecting my home. She then said that if I kicked Jake out, she wouldn't visit or talk to me. Things escalated when Amy's parents got involved. My parents sided with Amy, saying I was being harsh and that I should help family in need. My other siblings took sides as well, making me feel attacked. Amy posted about the situation on social media, painting me as the mean sister who won't help her own family. Despite all the backlash, I stuck to my decision. Jake left yesterday after Amy finally convinced him to get a place. Amy hasn't spoken to me since and has blocked me on social media. Now my parents are upset, telling me I should apologize and make amends. I feel conflicted because I want to keep the family peace, but also feel that my boundaries were completely disrespected. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house after he ignored my rules and caused a mess? Or should I have been more accommodating because he was in a tough spot? AITA for refusing to take care of my sister's newborn after she left town with her boyfriend? So, this is going to be a bit long, but I'll try to explain everything clearly because it's a complicated mess, and I'm honestly still trying to figure out where I stand here. I, 28M, have a younger sister, Emma, 24F, who has always been the more spontaneous and somewhat irresponsible sibling. I'm more of the steady, reliable type, steady job, own a place, that kind of thing. Our relationship has been okay, sometimes tense, but nothing too crazy. We grew up in a pretty small town, so family bonds tend to be tight. Last year, Emma got pregnant. It wasn't planned. She had a short relationship with a guy named Kyle, who was kind of flaky and not very involved. She decided to keep the baby, which I fully supported, even if I was worried about how she'd manage. Emma works part-time at a coffee shop and has been relying heavily on our parents for support. Our parents are quite old now, and they do their best, but they're definitely not spring chickens. Fast forward to about 4 months ago, Emma gave birth to her son, Liam. I visited a few times and helped out with baby stuff when I could, but I don't live nearby, so it's limited. Things have been stressful for Emma. She's been overwhelmed, but she also has this habit of making impulsive decisions. Now here's where it gets messy. About 2 months ago, Emma met a new guy, Ryan, who she says is the one. He lives in another state, quite far from us. A few weeks after meeting him, she decided she was moving there with Liam. This was sudden and out of the blue. She told our parents and me a few days before leaving, basically dropping a bomb that she's moving across the country and won't be coming back anytime soon. Emma asked if I could look after Liam while she got settled, because she didn't have anywhere to leave him during the move. Our parents are in poor health and really can't manage a baby full-time, and since I'm the only other close family, she turned to me. Here's the thing. I work full-time, and while I can take care of Liam for a few hours here and there, I simply can't be his full-time caregiver. I tried explaining this to Emma multiple times, but she kept insisting that I be helping family and that it wouldn't be forever, just a few weeks until she got on her feet. When she left, she gave me Liam with a couple of bags, including diapers and clothes, and said she'd keep in touch. At first, I tried to manage. I rearranged my schedule, took some time off work, but it quickly became clear that I was overwhelmed. Liam is a very demanding baby, and I don't have much experience with infants beyond occasional babysitting years ago. I reached out to Emma, explaining that this was too much for me and that I needed her to find another solution or come back and help. She got upset and said I was abandoning her and Liam and that family should stick together. She even suggested I was selfish and didn't care about her or the baby. Our parents also chimed in, saying I should do more to help Emma because she's going through a tough time and doesn't have support. I felt cornered. I love my nephew, but I'm not cut out for full-time parenting, especially without Emma's involvement. I also have my own life, responsibilities, and mental health to consider. A couple of weeks after Emma left, I found out through a mutual friend that she and Ryan were actually living together comfortably, and Ryan had a good job. This made me feel even more frustrated because it seemed like Emma left me to handle the hardest part of parenting while she moved on with her life. I told Emma I wasn't going to keep watching Liam full-time anymore, and I would arrange for child services or see if the grandparents could help, but that I needed a break. This blew up into a huge argument, with Emma accusing me of being a terrible brother and uncle. Our family is divided now. Some say I should have stepped up no matter what. Others think Emma's the one being unfair by abandoning her child and expecting me to cover for her. I'm stuck feeling guilty, but also overwhelmed. So, AITA for refusing to be the full-time caregiver of my sister's baby when she left town without a proper plan and expected me to handle it? Or should I just suck it up and do it because family? I'm genuinely torn here. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior. So, this is a long story with a lot of family drama, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. I'm hoping to get some perspective because I'm starting to doubt myself. I, 28F, have a sister, Sarah, 30F, who is getting married in a few months. I'm going to call her Sarah for clarity, even though that's not her real name. Our family dynamic has always been a bit complicated, but we've managed to stay fairly close. Sarah and I are very different people. She's outgoing, social, and has always been the golden child in the family. I'm more introverted and tend to keep to myself, and our parents have always shown a clear preference for Sarah. The problem started about a year ago when Sarah introduced us to her fiancé, Jake, 32M. At first, I tried to be supportive, but it quickly became clear that Jake is not someone I can get along with. He's rude, condescending, and seems to enjoy putting me down whenever we're around each other. He has a biting sense of humor that often crosses the line into being cruel, especially toward me. For example, at our last family barbecue, he openly mocked my career, which I'm very proud of, in front of everyone. When I confronted him later, he just brushed it off and said I needed to learn to take a joke. Things got worse when Sarah started involving Jake in more family decisions, including planning the wedding. I was initially excited about the wedding and wanted to help, but Jake has taken over the planning and insists everything be exactly how he wants it. Sarah has become almost a different person. She's stressed out, snappy, and dismissive of me, which is completely unlike her. It's clear that Jake has a lot of influence over her now, and it's affecting our relationship. The tipping point came about 2 months ago. Sarah and Jake invited me out for dinner to discuss the wedding guest list. I was happy to help and thought we could have a normal conversation. Instead, Jake dominated the conversation, telling me that my side of the family was too rowdy and that he didn't want certain relatives there. He made several passive-aggressive comments about how my friends and family might ruin the vibe of the wedding. I tried to explain that my family can be loud, but they're also loving and supportive, and excluding them felt wrong. Jake just rolled his eyes and said he wanted the wedding to be classy and controlled, which felt like a direct jab at me. After that dinner, Sarah told me she was sorry, but that Jake's opinion was final on the guest list. I felt blindsided and hurt, especially since Sarah didn't seem to stand up for me at all. We had a huge argument over text after that, and she accused me of being jealous and trying to cause drama. Since then, I've been trying to keep my distance, but things haven't improved. Jake's behavior toward me has gotten worse, and Sarah has stopped including me in any wedding plans. The final straw was when I was supposed to help with bridesmaid dress shopping last week, and Jake showed up uninvited and proceeded to criticize the dress choices, telling me they didn't suit my style and suggesting I drop out of the bridal party because it might be better for everyone. That was incredibly hurtful, and I told Sarah I couldn't be part of the wedding if Jake was going to treat me like that. Sarah responded by saying that the wedding is about her and Jake, not me, and that if I chose not to come, it was my loss. She also said that Jake has been nothing but respectful, and that I'm overreacting. So now, I'm seriously considering not attending the wedding at all. I feel like my presence isn't wanted, and I don't want to be around Jake's toxic attitude. But I also don't want to lose my sister completely. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior? Should I try harder to make peace for the sake of family? Or is it okay to step away and protect myself? AITA for refusing to let my brother and his fiancée stay in our late parents' house and making them homeless before their wedding. This is a long one, so buckle up. I, 32M, inherited my parents' house last year after they both passed away in a car accident. It was sudden and devastating. I'm still dealing with the emotional aftermath. I'm married to my wife, 34F, and we have a 3-year-old daughter. We live about 30 minutes away from the house I inherited, and I haven't had the heart to sell it or rent it out. It was my childhood home, and everything in it still smells like them. My wife understands and has been incredibly supportive. I go there sometimes just to sit and feel close to them. My younger brother, Kyle, 27M, is getting married in 3 weeks. He and his fiancée, Amanda, 26F, have had a rough few years financially. Amanda lost her job in 2020, and Kyle has been working odd jobs since finishing school. They currently live with Amanda's aunt in a small 2-bedroom apartment, and apparently that situation has gotten tense. 3 weeks ago, Kyle called me and asked if they could stay at our parents' house just for a few months after the wedding while they get back on their feet. I hesitated, but ultimately I told him I wasn't comfortable with that. The house is still full of my parents' belongings. It's not set up to be lived in without serious work, and emotionally, it's not something I'm ready for. I suggested he look into short-term rentals or even moving in with us temporarily if they really had nowhere else to go. Not ideal, but we have a finished basement and could make it work for a month or 2. He got cold and said, "So you'd rather let the house rot than help your own brother?" I told him that wasn't fair and reminded him that I was offering an alternative. He hung up on me. Fast forward a week later, Amanda posts a long, passive-aggressive status on Facebook about how some people would rather cling to dead things than help the living, and how she hopes karma is real. I didn't respond, but a few family members saw it and called me asking what was going on. Kyle then called my wife, not me, and asked her if she could talk some sense into me. She told him firmly that this was my decision and she supported it. He told her I was being selfish and grieving wrong. That was the last straw for me. I called him and told him that not only were they not staying at the house, but I was going over there that weekend to change the locks, clear out valuables, and set up a security system. He said I was being cruel and vindictive. I reminded him that he and Amanda had chosen to publicly mock and guilt me over a personal, emotional issue. He said they were going to be homeless because of me. I asked if Amanda's aunt kicked them out already. He admitted she hadn't, but said it was just a matter of time. I told him again he could stay in our basement temporarily. He scoffed and said, "I'm not going to live like a troll under your house." Since then, several extended family members, most of whom I rarely speak to, have messaged me saying I'm being heartless and that family should come first. One aunt said my parents would be ashamed of me for hoarding their house. My cousin told me Amanda cried for an hour after she heard I was changing the locks. I feel like I'm being ganged up on for setting a boundary. I love my parents deeply. That house is one of the last physical connections I have to them. I'm not ready to turn it into someone else's crash pad, especially someone who's treating me like garbage. My wife is 100% on my side and says Kyle and Amanda are being manipulative. A few friends agree, but I can't shake the guilt. They really don't have money, and I know they're stressed with the wedding. Part of me wonders if I should have just let them stay temporarily with rules just to avoid this whole blow-up. But the other part of me feels like this is a line I had to draw. It's not about the house, really. It's about how little they seem to care about what it means to me. Amanda's Facebook post really hit me in the gut. She's never even asked how I've been doing with the loss. Neither has Kyle, for that matter. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let them stay in the house and changing the locks to keep them out. AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids into my house after what they did. I, 34F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Jenny, 36F. Growing up, she was the golden child, straight A's, head cheerleader. Everyone loved her. I was the quieter, artsy one who kept to herself. Our parents didn't exactly hide their preference. Still, we were never openly hostile. More like polite, strangers forced to interact during holidays. Jenny got married young to her high school boyfriend and now has 3 kids, 10M, 8F, and 6F. I don't have kids, I'm married to my wife of 6 years, and we live in a home we spent years saving for and renovating. It's our pride and joy. Original hardwood, carefully chosen paint colors, mid-century modern furniture, plants we've nurtured for years, and my art studio. I work from home as an illustrator, so the studio is both my passion and income. Jenny and her family live about 40 minutes away. Over the years, she's made passive-aggressive comments about how I must have so much free time and disposable income since I don't have kids. I usually ignore it, but recently things came to a head in a way I didn't expect. A month ago, Jenny asked if she and the kids could come over for a weekend visit. Her husband would be out of town, and she wanted a change of scenery. My wife and I were hesitant. We love our nieces and nephew, but they're a lot. Very little discipline, always running around, and Jenny has a very kids-will-be-kids attitude. Still, we agreed, thinking one night couldn't be too bad. We prepped the house, locked the studio, moved breakables, stocked up on snacks. The visit started off okay, chaotic but okay. But by the next morning, things had gone sideways. I woke up to the sound of giggling and a strange thumping. I went downstairs and found my studio door open. The lock had clearly been tampered with. Inside, all 3 kids were there. My nephew was throwing paint at the wall while the youngest was smearing pastels onto one of my commissions. My middle niece had scissors and had cut up several pieces of my textured paper and sketches. I lost it, not in a screaming way, but I was shaking. That commission they destroyed? It was for a children's book cover I had been working on for 2 weeks, due Monday. The paper they cut? Irreplaceable, handmade sheets I had bought during a trip abroad. Paint was on the floor, on the curtains, and even on a vintage lamp. Jenny came in when she heard me yelling. Instead of apologizing, she said, "They're just curious. You should have made it more clear it was off limits if it was that important." I reminded her that it was locked and that they had broken in. She just shrugged and said, "Well, maybe if you had kids, you'd understand." I told her to pack their stuff and leave. She started crying, saying she didn't have a car seat in her car and would have to wait until her husband could come get her. I told her she could wait on the porch. My wife helped me clean what we could while Jenny sat outside with the kids, fuming. Since then, things have blown up in the family group chat. My parents say I overreacted and that it's not like someone died. Jenny is telling everyone I kicked her and her babies out over some ugly paintings. Extended relatives have chimed in, saying I should have been more compassionate. That Jenny is a single mom that weekend, and I should have helped her, not punished her kids. I've stood firm. I told Jenny she and her kids are no longer welcome in my home, at least not until the kids are older and there's accountability. My wife supports me, but even some of our friends are saying I went too far by making them wait outside and banning them over a few drawings. I don't see it that way. That studio is how I pay my bills. I lost money, time, and materials. It wasn't just messy, it was vandalism. And I'm still trying to repaint the wall where acrylic seeped into the plaster. Still, the guilt is creeping in. I didn't want to be that aunt. I didn't want to be the villain in some "our mean aunt hates us" story. But I also feel like no one is acknowledging how serious the situation was. It wasn't an accident. They broke in. And Jenny just excused it all. AITA? AITA for ruining my sister's wedding because I brought my service dog? My 28F sister, 30F, got married 2 weeks ago, and apparently I'm now dead to a third of my family. I didn't think this would explode the way it did, but here we are. For context, I have a neurological condition that causes unpredictable seizures. After years of dealing with this alone, I finally qualified for and received a trained service dog, Maple. She's a golden retriever trained to detect early signs of my seizures and to alert me and others around me. She can also perform deep pressure therapy and is trained to fetch my medication or phone. She is genuinely life-saving, and I'm never without her. She's calm, quiet, professionally trained, and has never once caused an issue in public. She's also very clean and hypoallergenic. My sister, Emily, has always had a weird thing about dogs. She isn't allergic and hasn't had any bad experiences. She just finds them gross and inappropriate in formal settings. When she started planning her wedding, I made it clear that if she wanted me to attend, Maple would have to come. I said this calmly, months in advance, and gave her time to think. She wasn't happy, but said we'd work it out. 3 months before the wedding, Emily sent me a long message basically saying she didn't want Maple there because it would clash with the aesthetic, make people uncomfortable, and distract from the ceremony. I reiterated that I couldn't attend without my service dog and reminded her that this wasn't a preference. It's a medical necessity. She offered to have one of her bridesmaids, my cousin, stay near me in case something happened. I asked if her bridesmaid had seizure training. She didn't. I said that wasn't acceptable, and if Maple couldn't come, I'd have to skip the wedding. Cue drama. Family members started messaging me to just leave the dog at home for a few hours and accusing me of being difficult. I explained again and again that my condition doesn't work that way. I can have a seizure out of nowhere. Maple is the reason I can function independently. After a lot of back and forth, Emily reluctantly agreed that Maple could attend the ceremony, but had to stay hidden during it and couldn't be in any photos. I said, fine, Maple can tuck under my chair or next to me. We even planned to dress her in a cute flower-themed vest to make her fit in. I thought that was that. Day of the wedding, I show up with Maple. She's clean, brushed, in her flower vest, and super calm as always. We sit in the second row. Maple lays quietly at my feet. I got a few looks from some people, but mostly everyone was lovely. Everything's fine, until about halfway through the ceremony. Suddenly, Maple nudges me insistently, which is her signal that something is wrong. I start to feel the dizziness and confusion hit. I whisper to my mom that I need to leave, and as I stand up, I stagger slightly. Maple braces me. She's trained to guide me away from people, and we quietly step out of the ceremony. I end up having a full seizure behind the venue near a quiet bench. Maple did her job. She pressed against me, alerted staff when I came to, and even retrieved my emergency medication from my bag. I was out for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. After resting a bit, I went back inside to the reception area, figuring I'd keep to the back and not make a fuss. I didn't want to cause drama or take attention away from Emily. Apparently, someone filmed part of Maple in action during the seizure. Not the seizure itself, but her alerting and helping staff. It got shared in the family group chat. Most people were amazed. A few said it was beautiful, but Emily went nuclear. She came storming over to me during dinner and hissed, "You just had to make it about you." I was stunned. I said, "I had a seizure. I didn't plan it." She said I should have just stayed home if I was going to pull something like that. I reminded her I warned her this could happen, and that's why Maple had to be there. She started crying, saying I ruined her perfect day, that people were talking more about the dog drama than her dress, and that I embarrassed her in front of her friends. I apologized for causing a scene, but said again, this is my life. I didn't choose to have a medical condition. After the wedding, Emily blocked me. Several family members said I crossed the line and made it about me. Others are on my side, saying I handled it with grace and Emily was being unreasonable. Our mom is torn. She thinks Emily overreacted, but also believes I should have left earlier or just sat in the back. I've spent the past 2 weeks questioning everything. I didn't want attention. I tried to minimize disruption. I didn't film anything or bring it up. I literally just had a medical episode. But now, apparently, I'm the villain of the wedding. So, AITA for bringing my service dog and ruining my sister's wedding? AITA for refusing to help my sister after she got scammed out her college fund? So this happened over the last few months, and things just exploded last week. I, 28M, have a younger sister, 19F, Emily. We have the same mom, but different dads. Our mom passed away 2 years ago, and Emily was still a minor at the time. So I stepped in and became her legal guardian since her dad was completely out of the picture. Our mom had a life insurance policy. Not huge, but enough to help cover college for Emily, maybe a used car and a little cushion. It was around $60,000, and I made it clear that it was Emily's money. I wasn't going to touch it, and I wanted her to have the best chance at a good start. I was working full-time and already had my own place, so I moved her in with me, and we made it work. Emily has always been kind of naive. She's sweet, but she trusts people way too quickly. I try to teach her to be careful, especially online. I caught her talking to shady people on Discord, sending money through Cash App to friends who needed help, and clicking weird links. Each time I'd sit her down, explain what's going on, and help her fix it. I even took her to a cybersecurity workshop because I thought maybe hearing it from someone else would help. But she always thought I was just being overprotective. Fast forward to 6 months ago. Emily graduated high school and was accepted to a university. Everything was set, tuition paid from the fund, dorm secured, and we even got her a used Toyota Corolla. She had about $22,000 left after everything. Then she met Aaron. Aaron, 21M, is the reason I'm here. She met him on Instagram. He's got the bad boy look, tattoos, motorcycle, and of course, no job. He told her he was starting a business, flipping houses, and needed investors. I saw red flags from day one. She insisted I was being judgmental and controlling. I told her flat out, don't give him a dime from that fund. 2 months later, I find out she gave him $15,000. Not as a loan, as an investment. I only found out because she was crying in her room after he ghosted her. He blocked her on everything. His socials are gone. His number is disconnected. The LLC he claimed to have? Fake. The address he gave her? An abandoned building. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I sat down, told her I loved her, and said we'd figure something out. She had $7,000 left at that point. I helped her set up stricter controls on the account. I took her to my bank, and we put some protections in place. I told her it had to last until at least the end of her sophomore year, and I'd help with groceries and expenses when I could. 2 weeks later, I get a fraud alert on the account. I'm still a co-signer. Turns out she sent another $5,000 to someone else. This time a guy she met in a business mentorship Discord. He promised to double her money with crypto trading. She sent it through a random crypto wallet address, and, shocker, he disappeared. I lost it. I didn't yell, but I was just done. I told her she had $2,000 left. That's it. No more. I wouldn't help refill the fund. If she needed money, she could get a job like everyone else. She called me heartless, said I was abandoning her like her dad did, that I didn't understand what it's like to be young and trying to find your way. I told her I understood better than she thought, and that if she wanted to make adult decisions, she could deal with adult consequences. I didn't hear from her for a few days. Then I got a call from a university. She hadn't shown up to any classes in a week. I drove up and found her staying in her dorm, eating ramen and crying. She'd maxed out her credit card trying to earn the money back through an NFT group. I brought her home, but I didn't give her money. I bought her groceries and let her stay in my apartment again while she sorted herself out. She dropped out of school a week later. I told her I would help her find a job, set a budget, and move forward, but I would not be giving her money directly. No more second chances. She needed to prove she could be responsible. She lasted 2 weeks at a job before quitting. Said her mental health was suffering. She asked if I could cover a new laptop since hers broke and she wanted to start streaming. I said no. That was last month. Since then, she's posted vague stuff online about having no support, being betrayed by family, and being surrounded by fake love. A few of our extended relatives, who weren't involved in any of this, reached out and told me I was being cruel. That Emily is just a kid who lost her mom and made mistakes, and I should be more understanding. One aunt even offered to send her money, since I clearly won't. I am honestly torn. I know she's grieving. I know she's young and probably dealing with trauma. But I also feel like I've bent over backwards trying to protect her, and she just keeps burning through every lifeline. I'm not rich. I work a normal job. I can't keep cleaning up after her. So, Reddit, AITA, for refusing to keep financially helping my sister after she got scammed repeatedly and spent almost all of her college fund. AITA for refusing to lend my sister money for her wedding when she's been avoiding responsibility for years. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Emily, 27F, and I'm in a bit of a moral dilemma that's been eating at me. Our family is pretty tight-knit, but complicated, and recent events have made me question whether I'm being unreasonable or not. Growing up, Emily and I had very different paths. I was always the responsible one, got a steady job right after college, paid off my student loans, and managed to save a bit. Emily struggled a lot. She dropped out of college after 2 years, bounced between jobs, and has had financial troubles ever since. Our parents tried to help her out with small loans here and there, but she always seemed to get deeper into debt or avoid paying anyone back. 5 years ago, Emily moved back home after a breakup. She was unemployed for a while, and our parents, who were getting older and not in great health, took on a lot of the burden helping her. Meanwhile, I was building my career, renting my own apartment, and trying to maintain a healthy relationship with both my parents and Emily despite the tension her situation caused. Recently, Emily got engaged to a guy she's been seeing for about 2 years. His name is Mark, and for what I've seen, he seems decent enough. They want to get married in about 6 months, and naturally, Emily started talking about the wedding plans. Here's where the conflict started. Emily came to me asking if I could lend her $10,000 to help with the wedding costs. I was taken aback because, frankly, I wasn't sure how she was planning to repay me or even manage the wedding expenses responsibly. She's never shown much financial discipline or responsibility, and I felt uneasy lending her such a large amount. I told her I couldn't just hand over that kind of money without some kind of plan or repayment schedule. She got upset, accusing me of being selfish and unsupportive. Emily claimed that I had always been the favorite and didn't understand what it's like to struggle. She argued that I could easily afford it and that it was just a loan between family. I tried explaining that it's not about money as much as it is about accountability. I pointed out that she's been avoiding responsibility for years, ignoring bills, not paying back debts, and relying on others to bail her out. She said those were in the past, and that she's changed now, that she's been working and saving for the wedding, and that this loan would just bridge the gap. I asked to see her budget or a plan showing how she'd pay me back, but she dismissed it as unnecessary and said it was a waste of time. Our parents, surprisingly, sided with me on this. They're tired of constantly having to cover for Emily and felt the loan was risky. Emily got really upset with them too, accusing them of not supporting her dreams and not being real family. I felt caught in the middle, but I stood my ground. After our fallout, Emily started posting on social media about how she's disappointed in family and can't believe they don't believe in her. I saw some friends commenting asking if anyone could help her with wedding expenses. Honestly, it hurt to see her publicly airing grievances instead of trying to resolve things privately. A few days later, I found out Emily borrowed the money from a payday loan service with extremely high interest rates because she said no one else would help. I was worried this would only make things worse. I reached out to offer to help her find financial counseling and budgeting help, but she refused, saying she didn't want to talk to some stranger about her finances. Now, Emily is asking me again for a smaller amount to cover last-minute wedding expenses. I've refused, and she's accused me of being cold and cruel. Our relationship has become strained, and I'm not sure how to move forward. I want to support my sister, but I also feel like enabling her financial irresponsibility isn't helping her or anyone else. Am I the asshole for refusing to lend her money when she needs it for such a big life event? Should I have just given her the money to keep peace? Or am I justified in protecting myself and setting boundaries? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her new fiancé and causing a huge family rift? I, 29F, come from a family that's always been close, at least on the surface. We've had our share of drama, like every family, but nothing that permanently fractured us. My older sister, Emma, 33F, was always the golden child, popular, successful, and charming. I, on the other hand, have always been more low-key and introverted, but we generally got along well enough. A few months ago, Emma announced she was getting married. This wasn't a surprise in itself, but what shocked me was the choice of fiancé. His name is Mark, 35M. They've only been dating for about a year, which isn't long, but I was initially happy for her. What I didn't know was that Mark has a reputation that made me immediately uncomfortable. The problem is, Mark is known in our small hometown as someone with a shady past. He has a few minor criminal records, mostly DUIs and some incidents involving bar fights. And he's been accused of some pretty questionable behavior by mutual acquaintances. When I brought this up to Emma, she brushed it off, saying he's changed and that people like to gossip. She's always been fiercely independent and believes in giving people second chances, which is admirable, but I felt uneasy. Over time, I started noticing subtle things. Emma became more secretive about her relationship with Mark. She stopped hanging out with our usual group of friends and was often evasive when I asked about their plans. Then came the moment that really pushed me over the edge. A family friend, someone who's known US for years and whom I trust implicitly, privately warned me that Mark has a history of verbally abusing past partners. This was alarming. I wanted to confront Emma gently, but every time I tried, she shut me down and accused me of being judgmental and not trusting her judgment. I tried to respect her boundaries, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was in trouble. A month before the wedding, I had a long conversation with my mom. Mom said she'd noticed Emma changing but didn't want to get involved or cause tension. Dad was the same, supportive of Emma no matter what. I was alone in my concerns, but I felt a responsibility as a sister to look out for her. Then, 2 weeks before the wedding, Emma confided in me that Mark had been controlling her finances and isolating her from friends and family. She said she felt trapped, but was scared to call off the wedding because of the social fallout and pressure from Mark, who had threatened to make her life difficult if she left him. This confirmed all my fears. I urged her to reconsider the wedding and even offered to help her find a way out, but she insisted she loved him and wanted to make it work. I was terrified but also frustrated that she wouldn't see the warning signs clearly. That's when I made the decision that changed everything. I told her I couldn't attend the wedding. I wrote her a long letter explaining that I love her, but I couldn't support a union that I believed was harmful to her. I told her I hoped she would see the truth soon and that I'd be there for her when she needed me. Emma responded by cutting off all contact with me. She said I was trying to sabotage her happiness and accused me of siding with people who wanted to break them apart. At the wedding, every family member attended except me. My parents were torn, but chose to go to support Emma. My relationship with them has become strained because they don't understand why I wouldn't just put my feelings aside for one day. Emma and Mark are now married, and from what I hear, things have only gotten worse. She rarely talks to anyone anymore, and the few times she does, she sounds anxious and drained. I don't regret trying to protect her, but I do regret how much it's cost me in terms of family relationships. Everyone in the family seems to think I'm the villain, and I'm left feeling isolated and heartbroken. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé? Or was I right to put her safety and well-being over family appearances? AITA for refusing to let my sister-in-law name my daughter after her late husband? I, 29F, had my first baby 3 weeks ago, a little girl named Lily Mae. She's healthy, beautiful, and thankfully came into the world without major complications. My husband, 31M, and I are over the moon, although we're exhausted and overwhelmed like most new parents. The issue is with my sister-in-law, Kelsey, 33F, my husband's older sister. Her husband, Andrew, passed away 2 years ago in a car accident. It was tragic, unexpected, and everyone was devastated. He was genuinely a great guy, and even I was pretty close to him before he passed. Kelsey has understandably been going through a rough time since his death. She hasn't dated anyone since, and she often talks about how no one will ever measure up to him. She's had a hard time letting go, and our family has been supportive but also worried. She's in therapy, but she still centers many conversations and family gatherings around Andrew. When I announced my pregnancy last winter, Kelsey cried and told me she was so excited to finally have a piece of Andrew in the world again. I was confused and gently told her that my child wouldn't be related to Andrew, but she said something like, "It doesn't matter. We're all family. She'll know about him." At the time, I brushed it off as grief talking. Fast forward to a few days after the baby was born. My husband and I shared her name and photos in our family group chat. Everyone was congratulatory, except Kelsey. She didn't respond for hours, then finally just said, "Oh, that's not what I expected." I called her privately, thinking maybe she misunderstood something. That's when she told me she was shocked and hurt that we didn't name our daughter Andrea or Drew after her late husband. I was taken aback and asked why she would think we would do that. Her response, "You know how much he meant to us." This was the perfect opportunity to honor him. I calmly told her that while we all miss Andrew, this is our child, and we chose a name we love that has meaning to us. Lily was my late grandmother's name, and May was my husband's mother's middle name. She got quiet, then said, "It just feels selfish." You could have given a part of him back to the world. After that, she stopped talking to me entirely. At first, I figured she needed time, but a week later, I learned from my MIL that Kelsey has been telling family members that I disrespected Andrew's memory and intentionally excluded her from something sacred. My MIL is torn. She agrees our name choice is ours to make, but she also thinks we could have extended an olive branch by using Andrew's name somehow, even as a middle name. Now, a few extended family members have been weighing in, saying things like, you know how Kelsey is, and she's still grieving, just give her this. One cousin even said, what's the harm in a middle name? You can always call the baby Lily. My husband is on my side and told them all to back off, but the guilt is starting to get to me. Was it really that selfish not to use his name? I never promised anything. Kelsey just assumed. This past weekend, we had a family brunch at Emil's house, and Kelsey was there. She didn't say a single word to me and refused to even look at the baby. But then, when everyone was leaving, she kissed Lily's forehead and whispered, you should have been Andrea. I'm not proud to admit I lost it. I turned around and said, don't ever say that to my child again. Her name is Lily. You don't get to rewrite her identity just because you're grieving. Kelsey burst into tears and ran out, and now the family is split down the middle. Half think I finally said what needed to be said. The other half think I'm cruel and punch down on someone who's still grieving a traumatic loss. I never wanted drama. I don't hate Kelsey, but I do think she's projecting a lot onto a baby who had nothing to do with Andrew. My daughter is not a memorial. Still, the guilt is gnawing at me. I keep wondering, could I have handled it more delicately? Did I overreact at the brunch? Should I have considered using Andrew's name to avoid all this pain? So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to name my daughter after my sister-in-law's late husband. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.